All right, let's talk about one of the biggest health trends out there, intermittent fasting. You see it everywhere, right? We're going to cut through all the hype, take a hard look at the science, and figure out what it could really mean for your health in the long run. So let's just dive right in with a question that probably goes against everything you've ever been told. Could skipping a meal on purpose actually be good for you? For your heart? Well, the answer is a whole lot more complicated than a simple yes or no. To really get why fasting has become so popular, we first have to understand the problem it's supposed to be solving. We need to talk about these silent threats, this group of issues we call cardiometabolic risk. Now, cardiometabolic risk isn't just one problem. Think of it more like a cluster of conditions, a team of factors that all work together against your health. And when they team up, they seriously increase your chances of developing really big problems down the road, like heart disease and diabetes. And here's the lineup. I bet a lot of these look familiar, maybe from your last doctor's visit, right? We're talking high blood pressure, blood sugar that's creeping up, cholesterol levels that are out of whack, extra body fat, especially around the middle, and this underlying inflammation going on inside. Any one of these is a concern, but when you see them together, that's when the picture starts to look much more serious. So, with all these risks stacking up, how are people trying to fight back? Well, one of the most popular strategies is to completely rethink when you eat. And that brings us to intermittent fasting. There are a few ways to do it, but two methods have really taken off. First, you've got time-restricted feeding, or TRF. This is the one you hear about most, like the 16-8 plan, where you fast for 16 hours and fit all your meals into an 8-hour window. Then there's a more intense version called alternate day fasting, where you basically switch between a normal eating day and a day where you eat very, very little or nothing at all. Okay, so that's the how, but the real question is, does it actually do anything? Let's dig into what the research says about the potential upsides. And you know what? The evidence for some of these benefits is pretty compelling. Multiple studies show that fasting can lead to significant drops in those key risk factors we just looked at. We're talking real reductions in body weight, waist size, blood sugar, and triglycerides. These aren't just tiny little changes, they're substantial improvements. And the good news doesn't stop there. Research also points to some pretty notable drops in both the top and bottom numbers of your blood pressure reading. And for anyone concerned about heart health, that's a huge win. But maybe the most exciting stuff is what's happening on a deeper level, beyond what you can see on a scale or a blood pressure cuff. Some studies are suggesting that fasting can actually help cool down inflammation throughout the body and reduce something called oxidative stress. Both of those are major drivers behind a lot of chronic diseases. But, and this is a really big but, it's not all good news. Like with pretty much everything in health science, there's another side to this coin. So it is absolutely crucial that we talk about the risks and the, frankly, mixed results. And here it is. This is probably the most important counterpoint we need to consider. While a lot of short-term studies show benefits, some long-term observational data raises a huge red flag, a potential link between doing this for years and an increase in dying from cardiovascular issues. That is a critical and pretty sobering piece of this puzzle. So you can see how this becomes a real double-edged sword. On one hand, for someone who's insulin resistant, fasting can be a powerful tool to get their blood sugar under control. But on the other hand, for that exact same person, especially if they have diabetes, it brings a serious risk of hypoglycemia, which is dangerously low blood sugar. It's a very, very fine line to walk. And what about weight loss? A huge reason people try this. Well, yes, studies show people can lose a good amount of fat, an average of 4 kilograms in some studies. But here's the catch. Some of that weight that comes off might not be fat, but lean muscle. And losing muscle is almost never a good thing for your metabolism or your overall health long term. Our bodies have this internal 24-hour clock, our circadian rhythm, and there's a growing concern that eating at really odd hours or in a way that fights against that natural rhythm could throw our whole metabolism out of whack. And we're only just starting to figure out what the negative effects of that could be. So on top of all the clear risks, the results themselves are just inconsistent. Some really well-done studies found that fasting didn't really move the needle on things like cholesterol or blood sugar at all. The benefits just aren't a guarantee, and it seems to affect everyone very, very differently. So, after all that, after weighing the good against the bad, where does that leave us? What is the final verdict on intermittent fasting? Let's just boil it down to 3 key things you need to remember. Number 1, Yes, there's real promise here. For some people, fasting can be a great tool to improve those key health numbers. Number two, the risks are significant. This is not for everyone, especially not for people with certain medical conditions. And we still have big questions about the long-term effects. And number three, it is not a magic bullet. It's just one tool in the toolbox, not a complete replacement for a healthy lifestyle. Really, what all this research seems to be screaming at us is that the best path to long-term health isn't about finding one secret trick or hack. It's about building a smart, complete, and sustainable strategy. So the path forward isn't about choosing just one thing. It's about building a whole package, putting together a smart way of eating, which, yeah, might include some form of fasting, but combining it with regular exercise, using medication when it's needed, and most importantly, creating a plan that's personalized to your body and your health. So we'll leave you with this thought to chew on. As the science keeps evolving, it's becoming really clear that the timing of our meals, the when, might just be as important as the what. And that simple question could be one of the most exciting frontiers in health for years to come. Thanks for watching.